Good morning everyone. Today in this video we will fight against the advanced character of our world around us. And this time we will think about the predecessors of our modern politicians and also predecessors of people who are ruling them and ruling us, and politicians are also ruling them and ruling us. So we can say that they are collaborating with ruling nowadays nations and nowadays people. Of course, not to our benefit, to their own benefits. They are ruling us. So we will talk about the predecessors of our modern rulers. Our modern current rulers, I should say, I mean, of course, politicians, and mainly the managers of many great, not because they are nice, but great because they are huge corporations. Why managers? Because, as I was mentioning many times in my videos, within last 50 years, managers slowly got separated from the owners of great companies. Owners simply are getting their shares, and they are enjoying lives in on some islands in Polynesia or Micronesia or maybe Bahamas, wherever they can, and they don't care about company. They only employ some managers for 3, 4, 5 years, and the only task for these managers is to maximize within their term the profits of the company at any cost. And this manifests in such events as we had, and now it's slowly finishing for the last more than 2 years with this very, very famous and allegedly very, very dangerous Chinese mini friend, microscopic friend in quotation, microbe. And now we see, so these managers can ruin everything. Together with politicians, they bribe to just increase the benefits of the company at any cost. And we see what decisions our politicians are making. For instance, when allegedly very, 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 very dangerous thing started in March 2020 was announced, they of course used this opportunity to print out as much money as possible in majority of Western countries. But not only, it happened, printing machines were really working really hard. They were almost burning themselves because of the amount of money they printed. I gave this example because now I will connect this what I'm saying with not so distant future. With not so distant past, sorry, not so distant past. Almost 50 years ago, in 1975 or in 1976, sources give different information. The president, actually bloody dictator of Uganda, Mr. Idi Amin, former boxer and really crazy and cruel guy, said to his finance minister as following: why are you nagging President Idi Amin, telling him that there is no money in the state? You simply printed out not enough. Yes, he said this. Of course, and we have to now connect the facts. In 1971, this connection between dollar and gold happened. The administration of US and also Federal Reserve those days decided to decouple dollar from gold. This enabled politicians of the upcoming future, politicians to do what they do. So print money without any limits, print money without any reference point. This decoupling between dollar and gold happened because states had problems, United States, with money, because they were involved for too long in Vietnam War and in many other proxy wars with communistic states. Later, of course, This printing money, the additional amount of money without any cover, without any reference point, without any value, started gradually. First it was really urgent need because of the reasons I mentioned. But really quickly politicians just realized that this is a good tool to solve in quotation, many problems on a short term. And Mr. Idi Amin simply used this opportunity in the mid 1970s to the extreme. What were the political consequences for Uganda? It's not so difficult to guess. Of course, complete crisis, hyperinflation, and so on. But now please look at our politicians. They are doing the same. What's the difference between them and such crazy bloody dictators of Africa like Idi Amin or Jean Bedel Bokassa in Central Africa? They were actually ruling their countries within the same year, 71, 79. And Mr. Idi Amin, just to describe a little bit this figure, was crazy enough to say, I ate human meat. It's a little bit saltier than meat of the leopard. He also, commenting on the assassination of one of his political opponents by his people, he also commented, no one is quicker than a bullet, and many, many others. But with the printing money, I could say easily that this order to his financial minister, it was very symptomatic in the early days of the disconnection of dollar and gold as a standard, as a reference point. It was a really symptomatic decision that unfortunately now is massively followed by officially serious politicians and CEOs of many big companies who are co-ruling with them, ruling together. I do not want to say that politicians of 1970s, 1960s, and early 1980s were were better people, wiser and so on. But at least, maybe they were not so much responsible than the politicians of current days. But at least they had still some sane mind. They had still some limits they knew they couldn't cross, not to break entire economy and just drag it into huge crisis like now we see in Sri Lanka and many countries to follow really soon, and many even countries that we think that they are stable. Please take a look what's happening in the Netherlands. This green politics reminds me the most craziest reforms of Mr. Bokassa, Jean Bedel Bokassa or Idi Amin. For instance, this green politics that killed Sri Lanka and now luckily Dutch farmers oppose reminds me the gesture of Mr. Bokassa, who asked French government, and French government gave it to him to borrow Napoleon's regalia and coronation costume of Napoleon because he announced himself the Emperor of Africa, Bokassa I. And the same with Mr. Idi Amin, when he allowed other regimes to do business with Uganda. He was a guest in many countries, east or west, and he has pictures from official visits with almost every politician and every important politician of 1970s. But okay, he was switching sides from west to east and so on. So once they liked him, once they don't like him. Once for Western media, when he switched more to the Eastern Bloc, he was a cannibal, he was a childish dictator, murderer and so on. But few years before, he was a good colleague because businesses and opportunity of using the riches of Uganda were more important. Like Jean Bedel Bokassa was overthrown by French commando and French induced coup because the prices of uranium increased. As long as uranium was cheap, French people didn't see his cannibalism, drinking drinking the wine from vessels made out of the skulls of his enemies, and so on and so on and so on. But suddenly, when prices of uranium soared, were soaring, they started seeing these examples of misbehavior. What an interesting correlation. But I want to just tell you that I have also a short theory, because 20 or 25 years ago, as far as I remember, the knowledge about these bloody African dictators like Robert Mugabe, like Idi Amin, like Jean-Badil Bokassa, and the way how they destroyed the economies of their countries was more common, was easy accessible, and people interested in Africa and not only in economy were talking about it. Now suddenly, in official media, these things got silent. We forgot about it officially. Now one needs to dig a little bit more, but as you see on my example, one can access this knowledge if one is stubborn enough and knows where to look for. Uh, why is this knowledge suppressed nowadays? My theory sounds like this: that the people who are still pre-selecting the information in mainstream media are not yet so stupid not to realize that majority of people, if they had this knowledge, they would simply make a simple comparison between those crazy dictators and modern politicians. And it would be detrimental for their image much more than anything else. All the best, I wish you a nice day, and I hope that the upcoming events will be a little bit better than it seems that they will be. All the best, have a nice day, bye.